night was supposed to be ordinary. A Friday evening in Kansas City. A house filled with laughter, friendship, and the small joys of being a teenager. 16-year-old Traelynn Sibley had no reason to fear. She was doing something so simple, so innocent, styling her friend's hair at a sleepover. A night meant for movies, secrets, and the comfort of being young. But that night would not end in laughter. It would not end in sleepovers and pillow fights. Instead, it would end in chaos, in screams, and in the shattering sound of gunfire. A single bullet would silence Traelynn forever. This is the story of the sleepover shooting of Kansas City. A story of innocence stolen, of violence entering a space where children should be safe. A story that asks, how many more families must break before change comes? Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Inside that house, 3 adults, a toddler, and a group of teens shared the night. The atmosphere was warm and familiar. Soft voices, the sound of music from a phone speaker, the clatter of combs and hair clips. It was a scene every parent has seen, every child has lived. Traelynn sat cross-legged on the floor, her hands gently working through her friend's hair, a symbol of trust and closeness, of childhood bonds. At just 16, she still carried the glow of youth, her whole future ahead. But beyond the walls of that home, tension was brewing. An argument earlier in the night had sparked anger, and that anger was walking back toward the house. In the hands of that anger was a weapon. It happened fast. The door opened, voices raised, and before anyone could process, before anyone could react, gunfire. One shot tore through the air. One shot struck Traelynn in the throat. The room erupted into chaos. Children screamed, adults shouted, people scrambled to shield the toddler, who cried in terror. But it was too late for Traelynn. She collapsed to the floor, her young life fading with every second. In a house meant for safety, violence had found its way in. And in seconds, innocence was replaced by tragedy. When police arrived, the house was already soaked in grief. The yellow tape went up. Flashlights swept across the walls, the carpet, the faces of those still trembling in shock. Neighbors stood outside, whispering, holding their own children a little closer. Another shooting in Kansas City. Another child lost. Another family broken. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. The suspect was 21-year-old Bailey Lewis, a name soon to be known across headlines. Lewis wasn't a stranger. It was said she had connections to those inside the house. And earlier in the night, there had been tension, a falling out that spiraled into violence. Detectives pieced together the events. They studied security camera footage. They followed phone location data. And slowly, the evidence pointed directly to Bailey Lewis. On August 28, 2025, nearly 3 weeks after the shooting, police made the arrest. Lewis was handcuffed, led away under flashing lights. She was charged with second-degree murder and accessory counts, held on a $400,000 bond. She stood expressionless as her mugshot was taken. Another young life, but one now defined by choices that destroyed another. While investigators worked, one mother's world had collapsed. Traelynn's mother described her daughter as bright, kind, and full of life. She had dreams of finishing school, of exploring the world beyond her neighborhood. Now those dreams ended in a living room floor under the sound of a gunshot. Her grief was not quiet. She turned her pain into action. She launched a petition calling for stronger gun laws. She demanded more police presence in communities like hers. She refused to let her daughter's death fade into another statistic. The neighborhood gathered. Candles lit the night, faces reflected in the glow. Children held flowers, adults held tears. Traelynn's name echoed through prayers, through chants, through silence. The vigil was more than remembrance, it was protest. A demand for safety, a cry for change. Kansas City has long been a city grappling with gun violence. Too many families have buried loved ones. Too many mothers have carried caskets instead of watching graduations. Traelynn's death was not isolated. It was part of a pattern, a tragic echo that repeats across America. From parks to schools to sleepovers, no place feels safe anymore. Her mother's petition became a voice for many, a plea that said enough is enough. Traelynn's story is more than a headline. It is a reminder of how fragile life is, how violence steals futures in seconds. A teenager, just doing her friend's hair, became the face of a community's grief. As the city wakes each morning, the skyline stands as witness. The sun rises over Kansas City, but for one family, the world will never be the same. Traelynn Sibley's story must not be forgotten. Her laughter, her innocence, her future, all taken by a single act of violence. And the question that remains is simple, yet heavy. How many more children must we lose before something changes?